Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisco Gaming, and in today's video, sponsored by the makers of Civilization, Eras, and Allies, we're updating my top 3 army list for Season 3. And there was a lot of updating that's going to happen. So if you missed out on my prior videos, consider subscribing, because this is a building series where every season I talk about the best armies. And I'm not going to rehash everything that we talked about in the past. I'll try to build off that information and have cards in the end screen. So if you missed anything, you could always double back. And if you haven't already downloaded the game, you use my sponsored link in the description, and doing so will support my channel. So, number 3, army. And in fact, I'm going to give you a bonus army. It comes at this tier. But a tie for third is the Pericles Cleo Mark Antony composition. This is a damage scaling army. Previously number 2 on my list. We got to bump it down. We've got some more powerful stuff now that we can go and do, but this is still really good. So if you got this early, absolute W. If you pulled Mark Antony like I did at the start of Season 3, I think you could still do work with this army. But there is an alternative that I want to show you that seems to be really powerful. This right here is your top 3 army alternative. And this is going to be Blackbeard plus Zhang Bogo plus Magellan. Now this particular player is a live streamer. I don't know who, because unfortunately this was a picture sent to me by somebody else, but they were saying like, Chess, you got to see this combo. But the composition here includes the following skills. You've got Scorching Sun and Rigorous Tempering, the passive skill on Blackbeard. You've got Fabius Tactics and Precision Strike, that's a historic skill, on your Zhang Bogo. And on Magellan, you've got Formidable Force plus Total Blockade. All in all, obviously a really powerful skill package, but let's just jump in-game real quick and we can talk about what these heroes are doing and why they work together. All right, here's Blackbeard, and you can see his skill, deal int damage to all enemy heroes one time and inflict the following effects for 2 turns: Burn, Panic, Scorch, and Rattle. All right? Powerful. Powerful. At max, this is a damage rate of 80%, and 1 to 2 of these effects at a 50% chance to trigger. Pretty solid. And by the way, Burn can be triggered twice. Okay. Now, Zhang Bogo, you know I have been using this season, and I've been very hyped about him. I'm very, very, very bullish on Zhang Bogo. What he does, at the start of each turn, inflict, it's a stack of Incinerate on all enemies. And when the target takes an action, they take int damage. And each time a target takes burn or scorch damage, so you see the synergy here, there's a chance to inflict an additional stack of Incinerate. Once they get to 5 stacks of Incinerate, you deal damage and remove 4 stacks of Incinerate. Incinerate, 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 Incinerate. It's obvious synergy going on here. It's a damage dealing synergy. And this is an engaged skill, by the way. Which brings us to Magellan, who I do not have. Otherwise, I'd be running this composition, obviously. I run a different version with Zhang Bogo that is my best army. I covered that in a prior video. I'll have a card in the end screen. But they're up here is Zhang Bogo, Sun Tzu, and Oda. But continuing here to show you this particular composition, let's head on over here real quick. Ooh, my free recruits refreshed. Yoink. Okay. Rewards and odds, and here's ya boy Magellan. All right, Magellan makes it so that each time an enemy takes continuous status damage, burn, panic, scorch, rattle, impair, rout, incinerate. Okay, and let's look at the max effect here. There's a 45% chance to trigger the following 3 effects, and the chance of triggering each is calculated independently. You reduce 2 random enemy heroes' combat damage dealt. This effect lasts till the end of the battle, stacking up to 10 times. Reduce 2 random ally heroes' combat damage taken. This effect lasts until the end of battle, stacks 10 times. Or restore troops. So it makes your enemy deal less damage, or you take less damage, or you recover troops, which is why, obviously, he's hanging out in the Vanguard slot. This is a very powerful composition. If I had Magellan, I'd be giving this a try. I think it's probably just better than what I'm currently doing, which is like pretty legit, but getting my hands on Magellan would be pretty huge for me. All right, but I don't have it. It is what it is. On the topic of heroes I don't have and actually can't even recruit, let's get to the second strongest army, which I've talked about in the past, and it was previously your number one best army. It's a Joan composition, and it's also got QSH. So like, yeah, peerless heroes, unique, very, very powerful heroes. And Trajan, I don't think you can even recruit anymore until they have an event where you can get him again. It was a limited time hero, but it's the Trajan QSH Joan composition. Now, I talked about this in the past. This is an active skill damage army. Okay, it works by triggering active skills faster and skipping the prep phase, which, like, yes, Joan is going to help you do that. All right. Trajan's role is to skip prep phase for strong active skills. You can also ignore the target's defense while dealing attack damage and increase combat attack damage dealt. QSH disrupts the enemy with his main engage skill to give Trajan a chance to trigger his active skills. And Joan's role is to give Trajan another chance to trigger his active skills again if he fails to trigger them, since active skills are chance-based. This is now the number 2 army. Was your prior number 1. And the reason is that it gets taken down. It gets taken down by the new top dog, in my opinion. Doesn't mean I'm right. Doesn't mean there aren't other cool compositions out there. All right. And obviously way more testing to be done. But it looks to me like Zhang Bogo, QSH, and Magellan absolutely freaking slaps. Let me show you the results, which are busted. Here's the composition. Again, this was a Korean streamer, and my buddy took pictures and sent it to me. So I apologize that I don't have an English version. I suppose I could do a Google Translate situation here. But anyways, the results. Money where my mouth is. Here's a picture of this composition taking down that number 2 army I was just talking about. And it's got a bunch of red stars. Seems pretty good. I mean, obviously we don't have the whole context, but it's a starting point. Here's another picture, full red star captain snipe. GG, man. So, you know, we talked about what Blackbeard's doing. We talked about what Magellan is doing. We talked about what Zhang Bogo is doing. So we're really talking about the difference between the number 3 army and the number 1 army with the season 3 heroes is eliminating Blackbeard's damage and burn and replacing it with something else. So let's go remind ourselves what QSH is doing for this composition. So QSH is going to make you a good bit more tanky. Every turn for the first 2 turns, inflict one of the 2 effects on the enemy heroes for 1 turn. Trigger rates calculated independently. Disarm, silence, disorient. This is obviously very powerful. It's an engage skill, so you're aiming to get started off right while shutting down your opponent. This, as far as I can tell, is probably the best composition you can roll. Zhang Bogo, QSH, Magellan. Which interestingly means that, I'm not saying, I mean, heroes obviously have roles in future seasons, and who knows what those are. I certainly don't, and we won't know until stuff comes out. But if I were angling for a hero early on, getting QSH as early as possible and then riding that power level to kind of glory here seems like a great choice. So what I'm trying to say is if you can get your hands on QSH, seems pretty good, because in season 3, I think he is really good. And even if you're not using the top army, which in my opinion is a lot easier to assemble than the number 2 army, like Trajan, I mean, I'm sure at some point there'll be a way to get him again. And then Joan is like obviously difficult here. So I think you're going to have an easier time probably getting Magellan. Of course, for me personally, instead of getting a single god dang Magellan, your boy Cheese over here pulled 500 million Mary Reeds. And then I just red starter. And then that really worked out for me. So I'm sure I'll figure out something to do. But anyways, you enjoy with Mary Reed specifically. Other than appreciate the artwork, chat. Other than appreciate the artwork. Because the artists in this game, they understood the assignment. Friggin' look awesome art. All right, anyways, you enjoyed it, throw a like on here, subscribe. Thank you to the makers of the game for sponsoring this video. I feel pretty good about this top 3, but if you want to see my top 3 armies this season, a little bit more down to earth, okay, for like what you might have, Carl B in the end screen. And also, if you want to see the top 3 from season 2, because you want to see more details about how the damage scaling army with Pericles works, or why it is that the Trajan army works the way that it does, and all the skills I'd recommend. Check the cards in the end screen, all right? Until next time, you have fun smashing your enemies. Take care, everybody.